Welcome you to the October 2nd meeting of the Weare Board of Selectmen. If you will please stand and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm gonna pay check here too. Taking all your money.
We have had so much tragedy in our country in the last few weeks that I'd like to take a moment of silence for all of those victims of the 3 hurricanes that have hit, as well as for the victims of the terrible shooting that took place yesterday. Thank you. Department head and committee items. We will start with appointment of a full member to the cable committee, Rachel Sisto. Is that how you pronounce it? If you could come up, we'll see if we have a few questions for you. Put you right on the spot. Now, Rachel, my understanding is that you've been serving as an intern with the cable committee for a while, or you have?
Kind of, sort of. I came in 2013, halfway through my my college career, and spent a summer maintaining the bulletin board, and kind of putting some things together for the channel, as I was doing kind of on an interim basis again as I was home from college. I finished my degree, which is in journalism and media, and then moved back to Weare and would like to become a full member of the committee.
Okay. Any members of the board have a question or a comment?
Thank you for stepping up.
Yeah, thank you for the work you've already done.
Right.
And we appreciate it, and you'll come in as an experienced candidate.
Right.
So I entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we make Rachel Sisto a full member of the cable committee.
Second motion.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Oh, and that's a term of 3 years.
Term of 3 years. Stick around.
I plan to.
Good. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to welcome Police Chief Sean Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Selectmen. Nights like tonight, I really enjoy coming in front of you. Some nights not so much, but I have
the other layer.
we'll save that for later. I have a few awards I'd like to make this evening, if you'll give me a few minutes. First, if I could have Officer Jake Hatch come forward, please.
Probably have to stay a little louder for the hallway.
Jake.
Ta-da!
Thanks. This evening, this is a recognition bar for Officer Hatch's military service. He was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the Hampshire Army National Guard last fall, and just recently returned to us from having completed his specialty training. So this is a recognition bar for his military service. May I have Officer Savaria up, please?
Thank you. That's great.
Selectmen, on Tuesday evening, April 8th. The Weare Police Department hosted an event entitled Medical and Mental Health Awareness Night, the purpose for which was to raise awareness of such issues in town and to increase the ability for the police, fire, and EMS services to better respond to calls for service involving particularly at-risk people here in town. Though several Weare Police Department members participated, this event was suggested by, advocated for, arranged for, advertised, and promoted by, and managed by Officer Savaria. She reached out to numerous non-governmental organization service providers, as well as those offered by local, county, and state authorities, and invited interested parties to attend and take part in the Weare Police Department event. The result of Officer Savaria's work was remarkable. The event was well attended by service providers and those in need of specialized services. In the end, many people in town that had not registered with our dispatch center at risk have been added to the rolls. Officer Savaria's efforts have enabled our dispatch center to enter registrants in an automatically identified electronic dispatch file that automatically tags the address with needed additional at-risk information for the dispatcher's review. With the recommendation of the Weare Police Department Awards Committee, I am pleased to award Officer Sheila Savaria the Commendation Bar for special service.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. If I could have, please, Officer Mike Muse, Officer Hatch. I hope that Officer Jesse Byam of the New Boston Police Department is here. Goffstown Police Department Dispatch Supervisor Michelle Preventure. Goffstown Police Dispatcher Christine Smith. And absent from this bunch, unfortunately, is Goffstown Police Dispatcher Katie Cook. I'm going to try and get through this. I'll choke it up.
I feel it.
Okay.
You need me to help them.
It's just pinch or something like that. Okay. On Thursday, April 13th, at approximately 12 o'clock noon, Weare police officers Hatch and Muse responded to a report of an intoxicated person threatening to commit suicide by hanging. The complainant, a qualified mental health provider, reported that the person had a history of suicidal behavior. Officer Hatch and Muse arrived at the victim's home, but after a search of the home, grounds, and surrounding woods, they were unable to locate the person. While the search continued in the surrounding area, the complainant reported to the Goffstown Police Department Dispatch Center that the person was in a tree with a rope around their neck and threatening to jump. Because the search for the suicidal person was spreading, Officer Jesse Byam of the New Boston Police Department was asked to respond to Weare and join the search. The Goffstown Police Department dispatching team of Michelle Preventure, Christine Smith, and Catherine Cook queried the State Department of Motor Vehicles records to get a description of the person's vehicles. The dispatchers then broadcast a be on the lookout to regional police departments to search for the person's vehicle. And knowing that the person was actively using their cell phone, dispatchers Preventure, Smith, and Cook had the person's cell phone pinged in an effort to locate where the phone was being used. The result of dispatcher Preventure, Smith, and Cook's decisive actions enabled officers Muse, Hatch, and Byam to focus their search in the Wood family forest adjacent to Bolton Memorial Field. The complainant reported that the suicidal person had threatened to jump immediately if a police officer was seen. He also reported that the person was singing loudly. Using a well-traveled trail, the officers entered the woods in an effort to locate the person before they carried out the threat to kill themselves. After a short passage of time, singing was heard from deeper in the forest. When the officers got closer to the singing, they could see the person standing on a limb about 25 up in a tree and about 50 yards off the trail. Officers Muse, Hatch, and Byram separated and used concealment to the woods in an effort to get closer to the person without being seen. Moments later, the officers heard the sound of tree limbs breaking. They immediately rushed to the tree and found the person hanging by the neck. The person was hanging limply and not making any effort to save themselves. Weare Police Officer Muse and New Boston Officer Byam climbed the tree to the height of the person's weight, but no higher because the tree branches were breaking under their weight. Holding on from opposite sides of the tree, Officer Muse was able to reach only one leg and hold on tight enough to take some weight off the rope, while Officer Byam used the knife to cut the person free of the rope. excuse me. Once free of the rope, the person's weight shifted and they rotated head down, but Officer Muse refused to yield. Officer Muse held tightly to the person's leg, stopping the person's fall only feet from the ground. Officer Muse held the person's leg with one arm until Officer Hatch was able to grab hold of the person's upper body and lower it safely to the ground. Though conscious and breathing, the person was unresponsive. Moments later, the person was turned over to the care of the Weare Fire Department EMS personnel and transported to the hospital. For their actions on Thursday, April 13th, 2017, the Weare Police Department is pleased to present Weare Police Officer Mike Lemieux, Weare Police Officer Jacob Hatch, New Boston Police Officer Jesse Byam, and Goffstown Police Department Dispatch Supervisor Michelle Preventure, Goffstown Police Department Dispatcher Christine Smith, and Goffstown Police Department Dispatcher Catherine Cook, the Weare Police Department Commendation Bar for Life-Saving. Please join me in congratulating these public safety professionals and thank them for their excellent work that day. Thank you, Selectmen. Those are the awards that I'm presenting this evening.
Thank you. And
Thank you.
congratulations to everyone.
Tom, the chief's gonna come back.
That's boys clear.
That emptied the room.
We're getting more than back to normal meeting size here.
Everybody's hanging around for you, Bruce.
Doesn't mean there may be some SROs out there waiting to come in.
Right. Oh, yeah. All right.
Yep. Doug.
Thank you so much, sir.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
We have, I guess, the camera issue.
I gave you guys the camera, 4 camera photos.
Right.
Show me one more.
Yeah, thanks.
So this is a project we've been looking at since probably mid-2016. Actually, it was earlier than that. The first time that we really discovered that we had an issue with our surveillance system was in the fall of 2015. And in doing a little bit of a survey of the equipment, we discovered that there was fairly significant gaps in the coverage in areas that would represent high risk to the community. And when I say high risk, I don't necessarily mean danger to the community, but more of a liability risk for the community if we didn't have adequate coverage in areas that events might take place that could lead to allegations. Anyhow, we've had 4 companies take a look at the existing system and make recommendations with regard to that system, both in either augmenting the existing system or replacing it. And what you've got in front of you are the four quotes. Protection One is our existing vendor. They are the ones that currently operate our maintain. We operate it. They maintain our existing system. Pro Technologies out of Hooksett, New Hampshire. Burns Security out of Dover, New Hampshire, and then Minuteman Security Technologies of Manchester, New Hampshire. Now, as you can see, there's a fairly significant disparity in the costs in front of you. I wish the explanation was simple. I don't pretend to understand the technologies that are involved here, but in essence what it comes down to is Protection One and Pro Technologies were willing to augment the existing system with new equipment rather than replacing it. Both Burns Security and Minuteman Technologies took a look at our existing equipment and recognized it for what it was. It's as old as the building. It is not of the quality that you would expect in a modern surveillance system in 2017. So they have recommended a complete replacement, and that's why their 2 quotes are so much higher than Protection One and Pro Technologies.
Question, in one of the main issues, other than location of cameras and needing some additional cameras, was that the recording system that you have now is very cumbersome and really not adequate.
That's correct.
Do the 2 lower bids here include replacing the recording piece?
Let me pull up.
When I went through it, it's very hard to make
Yeah, no kidding.
comparisons as far as
Well,
quality.
I know that Burns and Minuteman is a complete replacement. Give me half a second to pull up.
That one says.
I believe it does.
Protection One on the second page talks about
16-channel DVRs.
Right.
And therein lies some of the differences. Is apparently, from what I'm told, the DVR is just not. It's just not what's used anymore.
it's an NVR.
Yeah, it's
Network.
the quality of the recordings is significantly greater. The versatility for the user, as well as I'm sorry, what was the expression you just used, Naomi?
NVR?
Yeah, the NVR is network based. So in other words, if, for instance, an event occurred at the Weare police station, no matter where in the world I was, or the lieutenant, or one of my sergeants, they could access the video recordings and take a look and see what the event was and what resources we might have to deal with before we even started heading into the station. The DVR just simply is not capable of doing that.
What?
That one.
Up here. Now, if we don't award this to Protection One, is there any removal fee for their equipment or anything we have to pay them extra?
That's a great question. I have no
Okay.
information for you.
All right. You know? Okay. Okay. And another question I have too is, you know, I mean, again, I'm sure there was an RFP put out for all 4 of these vendors.
Yes.
And it was the same, and they're quoting apples to
Yes.
apples, which is exactly what we want. The only thing I see is different between Pro Technologies and Protection One is the warranty period. It's 90 days for Protection One, and yet Pro Technologies lists out that all the equipment's 5-year warranty.
Mm-hmm.
There's also a $45 monthly fee attached with Protection One and not with Pro Technologies. And real quick math, it's only 6 months of difference for savings on that,
The prices.
on the 2 prices.
Yep.
Flat prices. You know, and again, I've looked down through and I just don't see that on Protection 1. So that was a quick question I had, that's all. Now, I don't know if the difference is that their work warranty, you know, the cable install and everything like that is 90 days, and the you know, the equipment carries its own warranty. I don't know, but again, with what I got put in front of me, this is what, you know,
Right.
these are the things I have in black and white.
Naomi, you mind if I take notes on this? This is my copy.
I don't see where Burn Security even talks about it, high-performance multi-channel encoder. 16
They
channels.
were all asked for the same thing.
Yeah, so
Right.
I'm saying, the only one that talked about an NVR recorder was,
The one I made a minute.
Minuteman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what if the Pro Technology has a 16-channel network video recorder?
Both of
I would say that'd be
them.
NVR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So isn't that the same thing?
I would assume so.
Yeah, I would assume so.
That's the problem that I had going through this, because you know, I have no way of knowing what brands are quality brands for equipment and so forth. So when you compare them, you know, it's very difficult.
Well, the other question is that, you know, upgrading the system with using some of the equipment that's there, are we gonna be back here in 6 months, 8 months, or a year looking to replace some of this equipment if it's as outdated as the building, you know, from back then? That's the biggest.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, isn't this a complete replacement?
What's that?
Isn't this a complete replacement?
Depends on which
Which
contract you go with.
Oh.
How many cameras do you have now?
There are 16,
16 total?
yes.
So Pro Technology would be
Adding another.
replacing or adding a total of what, 9?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the case with Protection 1 as well.
Yeah. I'm sure they all bid the RFP exactly the same. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Burns is replacing all 11. If I understand it properly.
Yeah.
You've actually got 16 listed out.
Well, yeah. Well. So maybe they didn't read the RFP. It's possible.
See, Burns, it's an addition of the following new, because it appears that they have some that they would reuse as well, as right as the cameras.
Mm-hmm.
Did they all come look though? They all saw what you had.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
what I thought. So I think, you know, they all had the RFP and they all came and saw, so I'm guessing the numbers you're looking at are different because some are gonna reuse some and some are gonna reuse some more and some are gonna not reuse it.
Right.
I mean, we put it out for apples to apples, but oranges and pears came back. I can't do much about it.
No, I 100% agree with that. Do we have anything else with Protection 1? anything?
They have the other part of the system. Right? Protection 1 does what you have now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they don't do anything with the body cams or anything to 100 or anything like that? Okay.
No. This is the building. This is building.
This is just.
Okay, all right. Well, I just didn't know if they were a vendor for other things as well. Okay.
You've had them for quite a while. Is there any problem with the service? I know we're talking about upgrading equipment and adding outdoor cameras. Have you had any problems with the service from Protection One?
Yes and no. I know that sounds like an awkward answer. In the first instance, some of the problems that are associated with service are the limits of the technology that's in place. Right now, unless we have a technician, it's not to drive you nuts. We can't look at video. We have to have Protection One come in and get into the system and find the piece of video that we need to look at because of the limitations of the technology. Now that leads to the priorities of the company. Very frankly, when we call and say we need to take a look at video, they decide whether we're a priority for them or not. And sometimes they're Johnny on the spot, and sometimes they're not. And when they come, invariably, you two correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think they've sent the same technician over twice so that we've been able to get the stuff done without them having to be there for hours calling into tech support and everything else. So it's part of that problem is the technology, the equipment that is there is so old that these new guys in the business haven't a clue how to use it. You know, it's that out of date that anyhow, there you go. Yes and no.
Some of it's self-inflicted.
Now, we're talking to these other companies, such as Pro Technologies, for instance, or Burns, or Minimum. What's their priority going to be if you need a technician to come out?
Well, if you look at Burns, they're in Dover.
Well, I mean, where's this one coming from? Where's
Protect One?
yeah?
Frankly, I'm not sure. They take some time getting here. And Minuteman's from Manchester. They're you know, in the spirit of somewhat full disclosure, I'm familiar with Burns because that's who we used over in Durham, and you know, they were in the next town, so for us they were
Right on top of it.
grease lightning.
Yeah.
Now I know that over the years they've been expanding further west, particularly in the school systems. Yeah, ever since the school shooting started, the schools are becoming more technologically advanced in terms of security surveillance, and Burns has gotten a fair amount of business, and they've started to walk their way across the state because of their equipment and service. So you know, if I had my choice, I would recommend Burns to you, but that's simply because I don't know Pro Technologies. They could be a fabulous business, and similarly with Minuteman, they could be an absolutely fabulous business, and they might be, you know, as or more responsive than Burns. I simply don't know.
But I think, Jack, are you asking when they could come here?
No, I'm just asking what if they gave you any idea of what a response time would be if you called them for service. You know,
No.
Would it be a week? Would it be a day? You know, that's you're saying. You know, Protection One is not quick to jump on the, you know, as far as being a priority.
Well, you have to also
Especially if you have
understand,
to
though,
come
Jack.
out, especially if you need a copy of a tape or you need to look at a video. That's
Right,
there.
but that's using the current technologies.
Right, you're upgrading.
This upgrade
It
that
doesn't
we're
look
talking
like they're
about will
looking for-
replace that need.
It doesn't even look like they're gonna upgrade it.
Oh, yeah.
It says a DVR, 2-channel,
A second
16-channel
And
DVRs
that's-
with timestamp
Right,
capability.
Protection
That's what
One.
we're looking
And-
at.
Replacing one.
Yep,
Now, you're looking at an NVR, which would be,
that's
We put
correct.
it out as a DVR, not knowing
Yeah.
NVR was out there.
okay,
Yep.
so,
Just, I have some knowledge of these, very shallow, but because of my experience when I had a store. And we never had to have a technician come in. That was something that was purchased probably 10 or 12 years ago, and yet the system was from a different company. But I could take and cut a DVD from any given camera from any given amount of time and just hand it over to the police department if there was an issue with, you know, whether it's somebody at the front desk or whatever the issue was. And it was only complicated because I didn't have to do it very often, so I had to relearn it every time. But it was a good system. So matching it up, and I don't know whether that's the network-based one or not. This system too, I never activated it, but it could have been tied in so that I could view it from home or any other place. So it sounds like the same idea as a network-based. And it was, you know, they have a person trained on staff to do it, and you probably would use it more frequently than I did. That's what you should aim for, and certainly not an ancient technology for the recording. The cameras, it's just a matter, I think, of the quality of the picture. They're gonna all tie into the same thing as that central unit that you've got to worry most about, and the ease of use of that. So that said, it didn't mean anything, did it?
Well, I don't think that having to go back with protection one, and the other thing that kind of, you said it doesn't give me a warm fuzzy feeling of them, is that they're not local. You know, we don't know where they're at. At least you know where all the other three are at. You know, Manchester, Hooksett, Dover. So I mean, for all we know, the protection one could be in Boston. You know, it's and I know with the NVR, you can watch them from any place, because I've been operating cameras that the state has, and they can watch them in Concord for any place in the highway, including the bridges, and then, well, you watch them on the local monitor, so they know everything that's going on at any given time. So I think, you know, the other two are kind of, you know, they're going to give you a bigger bang for your buck, I'd say, but the buck's going to be bigger, and I don't think your budget can
Swallow that.
swallow that.
I mean, because of the difference in price, I think that the higher estimate here,
Yeah, we're not.
we probably should rule out,
Yeah.
because it would be pretty irresponsible for us to
Going in,
take
right?
something that's almost 4 times as much.
But I,
Minuteman technology, which is the 26,000 plus 26,552.
the other, yeah.
I mean, it's so much above and beyond. the
Well,
other
I know, that's the thing, is budget, that's what I said, the budget couldn't stand it, so even if you wanted it.
Before
don't
you
know,
make a
my-
decision about that, I think I would be more comfortable in verifying that this, because even as I'm looking at it here too, I mean, we, that's the royal we, have made an assumption here that the quote from Burn Security involves the NVR. So let me make a phone call on that. You know,
Well, I think.
we've been
Burns-
at it since fall of 2015. We can wait another week.
I think Burns is a little out of the price range too.
Network video.
Isn't that what that?
In Burns.
But there's also other questions, I think, Sean, would be,
Yeah.
like response time
Yep, and the warranty
and the
question.
warranty.
Questions,
Yeah.
yeah, before we make a decision.
And then moving forward too, if you know, a question for Pro Technologies would be, you know, is there a reoccurring monthly fee with them too that they didn't, you know, disclose?
Does this include too, with them, with the others, didn't see it. Burns has got a monitoring service charge subject to change, as set forth in the paragraph, so they've got theirs. This, they don't, but is there I know you wanna have a live feed to base 100, is that something that they're gonna do at the same time, or is that
Yeah.
something different?
Who?
Any of them.
Any of them?
The IP to it.
The dispatch,
100,
the police dispatch center.
I don't see that listed anywhere, so.
Well, color me crazy, but I think that we're looking at an NVR system, a network system, that they would be able to have that monitoring.
Yeah, they'd have to have the access. Is
Yeah.
that gonna be something they'll set up down there for them to use? That's the question.
Right.
Sean, you want, this is the one from back a while ago, that's the live feed to the lobby.
Right.
You wanna,
Well, if you'll recall, that the live feed to the lobby was going to augment the equipment that's there now.
okay.
So if you'll schedule for next week or whenever the next meeting is, Naomi, I'll have those answers for you.
2 weeks.
That's fine.
16.
All right.
Any other questions or things that
No.
the chief should be looking into?
No, I just wanna make sure we're getting the best bang for the buck, whichever one it is.
Yeah.
And we're not having any hidden, all of a sudden, oh, that's gonna be extra, oh, that's gonna be,
I'll find out for you. Thank you.
Chief, you got a minute? The other morning, we had a call for service around 6:30 in the morning. State police responded, as they should, and Weare Fire was toned for to stand by till police arrived. 10 past 7, our ambulance crew asked if there was an officer responding, and dispatch said yes. State police is responding, and the coming on officer had been notified. The officer didn't respond till 7:15. I know I brought it up before, and I guess it's just my opinion. I don't know what the board feels, but we don't offer 24-hour coverage still, and I think that's a priority that needs to be crossed sooner than later. But to me, if you're going to offer a service from 7 a.m., then the service should start at 7 a.m. That's my feeling. And I know that when I go to work, I got to be ready to go at my designated start time of 7:30.
Yep.
So I don't know if there was circumstances that happened, and that was just a fluke. That it was 15 minutes from the time that we opened door to the time we're responding, or what the case may be.
It's not a fluke, Selectman. It's what there's case law in the state of New Hampshire that allows for police officers to have 20 minutes of donning and doffing of emergency equipment. And if you'll recall, when you first took office some 3 years ago, we had a similar conversation about similar circumstances. The officers, by contract, work 10-hour days. The day shift starts at 7 a.m. and goes till 5 o'clock p.m. We have an option under the case law. We can either pay overtime and have the officers come in 20 minutes early, or they come out at 7:20. In the last instance, the last time we had this conversation, if I recall correctly, it was about a similar response time. The officer got there about 7:15, and frankly, I'm thrilled to death that they're getting there that early. If this was an ideal situation and we did have 24-hour services and our day shift was overlapping with an off-going shift, we might be having a different conversation. But right now we have 7 to 5, and if the 5 of you want to entertain the idea of paying 20 minutes of overtime to have the officers come in early, I'm happy to hear you.
Well, I mean, that to me that's information. It's informational. But also to me too is I think that we can't say we offer the service at 7 o'clock then. That's just my own personal opinion, is that we can't offer it at 7 o'clock, because we technically don't. You know, I mean, regardless of the 20 minutes here or there, we just don't offer that service at 7 o'clock to start. And that's my personal feeling.
And that's a conversation that we've had, not you and I, but I have had with your predecessors since I took over in 2014, whether I was the interim or the acting at the time. I had laid out a vision of the Weare Police Department and the needs of a community of 10,000, 15,000 during the summer and 60 square miles. The fact that we don't have 24-hour services is an abomination from my perspective.
And I couldn't agree more.
Needs to be addressed.
I couldn't agree more.
Again, if we have this conversation sometime in the future, and when we're talking about 24-hour service, this is not going to recur. But under the conditions that we have now, it's going to continue to recur. Now, we can change our open for business sign to read 7:30 to 3 a.m. if you'd like, but
Okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. Like I said, it was more of a question, information than anything. That's all.
What about the change of shifts? Say the people who come on at 5, do we have a similar gap there? Or would the person who is going off at 5 just respond considering it overtime because it's an emergency situation?
what you have is police officers that are taking care of one another. The 5 o'clock shift, almost invariably, I can expect to show up in the station anytime after 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Because they know that our day shift is swamped. They're busy as a one-armed paper hanger. And they come in to lend a hand whenever they can. And frankly, they don't charge us for it. Right now, our shifts butt up on one another simply because we're trying to maximize those 20 hours a day. If the union wanted to come forward and say, you know what, Chief, we appreciate your kind remarks, but the reality is that we get that 20 minutes of donning and doffing and we want it. I'd have to adjust the schedule, and it wouldn't be police officers on duty till 3 o'clock in the morning. They'd be on till 2:30 in the morning, and I'm not sure that helps us out any either. Tom, we've got to get over this 24-hour hump. We've got to. Our legal counsel's telling us we have to have a legal written agreement with the state police in order for their jurisdiction to count. Because right now, under the statute, they do not have jurisdiction to police this community unless we make a specific request.
Well, the first step is what you're working on, and that is,
Yep.
let's get our staff up to what
Yep.
the town is paying for, and
Mm-hmm.
move on from there. Hopefully with the latest round of interviews, you'll get candidates so that we can do
Yep,
that.
I understand that. But to delay into 2018 means that it won't be until this time in 2019 before you can offer 24-hour services. It's already been years too long, and now you're talking about more than another year and a half. We've got to get this done. We've got to.
Now, we had, and I think I know the answer to the question, it's overtime, but we did have 24-hour service for a number of years, because way back in, I think it was 2006, we added a couple of officers, a couple of new officers. I think it's the last time that the police department had additional officers added.
Yep.
And the reason given at the town meeting of the deliberative session was that with those two officers would be able to offer 24-hour coverage. It all came about because of the tragedy in town where we didn't have coverage available. And so it was very emotional, and the warrant article passed. And then what we dealt with after that was skyrocketing overtime, some of which no doubt was attributed to that. I don't know if I have a question or if I'm just reviewing, but the question I guess would be, if more overtime expenses were palatable, would it be possible with, once you're up to full staff, to offer that 24-hour service, or would it lead to dangerous situations for the officers and the public?
Yes. The cost, and I don't have them in front of me. They're calculated, they're sitting on my desk. I can tell you down to the dollar, based on the average cost of overtime in the Weare Police Department, what the additional amount of money that we would have to spend in overtime. And it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. I'm glad you brought it up. Before, even before my predecessor was here, your overtime costs were in the $250,000 range, and that to me seems wild. Coming from a police department that was twice the size of the Weare Police Department, our overtime budget was $80,000. It's unnecessary. The cost of doing that has just gone up. As the town administrator will tell you, the retirement system has increased the town's contribution to the retirement system in order to keep it vibrant. And by paying overtime, you're also paying overtime into the retirement system. So it's interest compounded. Now, that's the dollars and cents cost. That's real. It's black and white. We can all hold it in our hands. The expense that we can't forecast with any kind of accuracy is exactly as you've alluded to, Tom, is the risk that we put by imposing what amounts to 8 hours, 2 officers working 4 hours of overtime every single day, 365 days a year to give that coverage. In order to do that, you're taking 11 officers and you're exhausting them, and you're compounding that exhaustion every single day. And the risk of a problem goes up with every passing day, whether it's a car crash or the wrong word spoken at the wrong time to the wrong person. The potential for liability to the town is extraordinary. And I know I keep on using these words that are trying to point out the problems with these types of things, but the fact remains is the least expensive alternative. I know that sounds crazy, but the least expensive alternative to this town is to hire 2 more police officers and have for 24-hour coverage. Somebody made the offhand remark, and frankly, at the time, it kind of ticked me off, but I'm not empire building. I'm leaving here in 2019. You've told me that. This is for you. This is your community. I am trying to provide you the best possible services for the best dollar amount that I possibly can. I don't care, frankly, if we have 11 officers or 13 in terms of my personality and my ego. It doesn't matter to me. I'm the chief of police, and you add more cops, you add more problems. It's just, that's the reality of it. But you've got to have them. You've got to have more police officers in this town. And it's the least expensive of the alternatives. I don't know what else to tell you. Aren't you glad you asked, Ricky?
Absolutely. I love hearing you talk, Chief. Love hearing you talk.
No, and I don't, for the most part, there are people here you don't really have to convince of that.
Yeah.
What we have to do is somehow convince the general public so that if we put something forward, we can have a reasonable, and I'm not speaking for everybody, but I think that, there are certainly people on this board who are supportive of what you're saying, and maybe everybody, I don't know. But you know what we go through to get things passed.
Well, I do, and I know it's going to be unpopular, and your phone's probably going to blow up, or at least the town administrator's phone's probably going to blow up from this comment. But from the way I read the statute, you do not need to put this in a warrant article. This is part of the proposed budget and should be part of the default budget, because the statutory requirement that we are under and the collective bargaining agreement that we are under requires us. It's required. It's a required activity. The people that you have currently policing you between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. are a fantastic organization, and they will deliver. But they don't have jurisdiction. And the only way they can have jurisdiction is if they'll do a written agreement. And the only way they'll do a written agreement, I got it today, is if we pay the state police overtime. That's the only way. And there's no guarantees that they'll be in town. That's the only way. Got it in today's email. So that's, I haven't even had an opportunity to talk to Naomi about it. So, you can't pay them overtime and not pay the Weare police officers overtime. You'll have a grievance on your hands that'll cost you more money than the town's willing to spend.
Chief, I think this conversation, I think, in the day-to-day operations gets forgotten, honestly. The topic of that whole 3 to 7.
Yep.
And I think it's unfortunate because, like you said, it's the day-to-day operations, they go by, and but I think this has been a good conversation to rehash because it needs to be rehashed, and it needs to be brought up every once in a while.
Yeah. Here's my very rudimentary take on this. If we have a resident in town that picks up the phone and they dial 911 and they need a police officer, guess what happens? It may take a while. It may take a long while, but a police officer shows up at their house. And they do not care, frankly, in an emergency, whether that officer is wearing Weare navy blue, Hillsborough County Sheriff brown, or State Police pink and green. They just know a cop has finally showed up to help them with their problem. And that is why we have difficulty getting voters to understand this. It's there it is. That's the bottom line. That's why. You dial 911, a police officer will come to help you, period. Period. Same with the fire service. You call them up, you tell them it may take them a while to get there, but a firefighter or an EMT is going to get to your house. They're going to help you. Whether they have to come from Manchester, somebody will be here.
Now that leads me to one more question. We have mutual aid agreements. Is there anything with that as far as New Boston, Dumbarton, Henniker, the surrounding towns? Because you mentioned that, and that's the way we work as on the fire side, but I just don't know how that works on the PD side.
Well, let's start in the first instance. Currently, the state police have this, informal agreement that, again, as we learned today, must change. By statute, the state police are excluded from mutual aid agreements. They can't have a mutual aid agreement with us. Any agreement that we have with the sheriff's department would be a contract situation dollar amount. And again, pay the sheriff's office, pay the Weare Police Department. When somebody's getting paid, the town has to pay for the service, period. State police, the sheriffs, or the town of Weare. One way or the other, it's getting paid. Now, mutual aid, under the statute, what it requires is that an officer of the Weare Police Department makes a request that, they're going to a call and they need assistance. Anything else is a contracted service. Again, you're talking about
Money. Okay. I just didn't know how that worked, that's all.
So, like right now, at this time of day, if we had an emergency down on the south side of town, the responding officer could say, would you ask the New Boston Police Department to respond? Earlier tonight, you saw the New Boston officer Byam was assisted us. That's commonplace, happens all over the state, as you well know from the fire service. 3 o'clock in the morning, Weare police officer has to be responding before mutual aid will apply.
Okay.
Because mutual aid is, we're helping you. We're not replacing you. If you want a replacement, it's a contracted service.
Okay.
Questions?
That and a $1.50 gets you a cup of coffee. Small one.
I don't know, if $1.50 can give you a small.
Okay. Anything else? All right.
Thank you, Chief.
Good night.
Chief.
Good at it.
Bruce Fillmore, the clerk of the works for our highway garage project, and he's here to give us an update.
Yeah, it's been a while since I was here last. What's happened? We got concrete floor poured in the office and mechanics bay section of the building up to the firewall. The other floor takes a little longer to prep. It's much bigger. They're gonna do it all in one pour. So it'd be a lot more of a integral structure as opposed to several different floors. And they're starting on framing the office portion, building the mezzanine. All the interior petitions are starting that tomorrow. Material was delivered today. They've got everything laid out. So things are progressing. The septic system's all in, it's backfilled, there's some rocks out front, so people don't drive over it. We had to do a little reconfiguring there, because upon laying it out, and once we realized where the water line that was, that went up to the transfer station, the septic system would have gone over that water line, which is not a great idea.
Not exactly.
So they shortened up the system, which actually, I like it better anyway, because now it keeps it to the corner of the building, so if someone were to drive by the end of the building, not driving over the septic system, the building kind of protects it. So that, I mean, Tim Phoenix is pretty much done with the site work end of it. The only thing they've got to do is, once the rest of the floor is poured, to build little ramps up to the doors, and the material's sitting there to do that. Short work. But we haven't had any real unexpected glitches. One thing that wasn't in the plans or anything at any time was sealing the holding tank on the inside, so nothing can leak out of it. But we've got hopefully they've got somebody here that will have that, we're gonna get it sealed. They're gonna get it done by the end of the week. That way it'll help. There's gonna be a lot of salt in that water that's in there.
Right. Right.
So it'll help longevity of that tank, have it sealed.
You got the venting issue squared away with it?
Yeah, that's going in this week too.
Okay.
That's the last thing they've got to do before they can really get ready to pour the rest of that floor. The plan is that they'll have that floor poured next week, the balance of it, which will give it a good cure time before anything heavy gets on it.
Is the firewall in?
No, the base of the firewall is in. Actually, the firewall, they put it on a footing, so the firewall is 3 feet tall before it even got to the floor. So it's sitting on a footing, so it's not gonna go anywhere, because it's a pretty heavy wall.
So, the reason I asked is you said you poured one section of the floor up to the
Yeah,
firewall.
the
so-
firewall is built to essentially the floor elevation right now.
So what will that be? That will be, the firewall, will that be what will it be made of?
Yeah, the bottom 8 feet of it's gonna be 12-inch thick cement block.
Mhm.
And then from 12 feet up, or 8 feet up, it's gonna be drywall,
Mhm.
3 layers on each side. But we did the bottom out of block to make it a little more durable. And it's gonna be coated with epoxy, the whole firewall, so the whole thing will be essentially waterproof. So if they decide they wanna wash a vehicle on the other, on the storage side, and water gets on the firewall, it's not gonna hurt it a bit.
When are you expecting that they can be in there at this rate? Roughly.
They're running a little late. I mean, I was looking at the schedule before I came down here. If you look at from when they had starting the interior framing until their completion date, it was 2 months, but it's not gonna take 2 months. All the underground plumbing is all done, the underground electrical is all done. The shower stall is sitting there. I mean, they get 10 days in there for doing interior framing, and if those guys are any good, they'll have it done this week. There's not a lot in there.
No, there really shouldn't be. No.
You've got one long wall length of the building that's got a step in it that defines the office space to the mechanic bay, and then, the mezzanine floor over the top.
Now, is the new well supplying the transfer station too?
The new well will be supplying the transfer station. It's not online yet. They did a water test, and I think we ought to talk about this a little bit also. The water test, all the iron, manganese, all that was fine. The arsenic was a little high. The arsenic is from, it's a natural byproduct of uranium, which is in our ledge. It's not like it was apple tree farm arsenic.
Yeah.
So there's two ways to think about that. Because it's not a residence where people are gonna be in there drinking out of any faucet in the house, taking showers, doing laundry, there's really no need to have the whole entire water system treated. But we certainly want the place where they're gonna get their water for making coffee and things like that, the kitchen sink essentially, have a probably a little separate spigot on the side of that that's treated water.
We need a filter.
Right.
And they're gonna have a shower in the
Same
locker
thing as
room.
here.
There's a shower in the locker room, yes.
Same thing with this building.
Right, that's
Yeah.
what it
It's
is.
a very common element found in water.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
I know.
And the state, a few years ago, cut the limit by a decimal point. It went from 0.1 to 0.01. So now, just about any water in the state is gonna not meet that requirement.
Right.
So that, there's a point of use, which is when you have it at the single faucet, is a much less expensive route to go to take care of it than if it was a whole house, whole water supply system.
Now, like you say, they don't need to treat it for the washing the trucks or rinsing the floor or et cetera.
Right, or
Um,
flushing down the drain.
Right, but, obviously, you could probably, like you said, put a system that would encompass drinking water, the shower, or anything else that they might wash their hands in or something like that,
Well, washing your hands, once you aerate it and get everything out in the air, I mean, it's not usually if you treat for iron, arsenic goes away with it, because arsenic molecules bond to iron molecules, but the iron count was very low. So. that
How
treatment
deep did they have to
process-
go down, do you know?
I'm not exactly
They
sure.
said it's a true artesian. The thing was, they had to put it on
Bubble
the
over the
floor. It's
top.
bubbling right over the top.
Well, that's
It
good.
went about, I went up there a couple times, and I think it was I think Jack told me it's now like 300 feet.
Yeah, it's just, usually the shallower you hit water, the better.
Yeah,
Usually when you get real deep, that's when you start running into a lot of iron, manganese,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So I think it's just under 300 feet.
Yeah.
And it's, they had to run a runoff on it because it's bubbling right out of it. So it's a true artesian. It's just,
that's good, that's what I like to hear.
So I mean, the groundwork outside is essentially done. They've got a few little trim pieces and things missing on the building. It's mostly interior now. And then once that floor is poured, there's not a lot of work to go in the truck storage end of the building, some light fixtures and some outlets, but that's not like the offices where you're doing drywall work and all that.
Mhm.
Have you guys been down there?
I've been there a bunch of times.
Pretty nice headroom in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the doors, you're gonna start seeing the overhead door company is supposed to be going in this week and start putting some of the hardware in, getting ready to get the doors installed.
So there haven't been any change orders or anything? No?
So back to Jack's
But there
question.
will be one because of the tank.
The tank
Yeah.
will be.
There will be one,
Yeah,
yeah.
Right.
yeah.
Which I
figured that.
completely agree with, yeah.
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 But-
Ceiling,
Yeah.
ceiling of the tank.
So
Glad that's
before,
being done.
before or after the date given, you think?
I'm really thinking it's gonna be a mid-November
Okay.
finish.
Okay.
But there's no reason they couldn't have the 6 bays where they park the trucks done before then.
Right.
you know, it's the office area and things like that that are gonna take
Be
a
the
little
finishing
longer.
touches, right?
Right.
Right.
Any questions?
No?
No, I think it looks good. Everyone I've seen it, it's.
Yeah, they're close.
Yeah. Well, it says 11/13, so.
Mm-hmm. That's
Which
good.
actually, I believe we held them up for a little bit at the start.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Because
did.
we had to test the building, so that took
I
us
made 'em-
all taking it down.
I made them sit on the hands for a few days
Right.
while they were lit in concrete cure.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there was, you know, there was some on our end too.
No, but it seems
Yeah.
to be on schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really good. I've been
good.
there a bunch of times. Looks good.
Anything else?
That's it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bruce.
Finalized CIP requests. I think this is a related issue.
Yeah. Take one pass down.
Oh, okay. Looking at him like, wow, these all look the same.
No, what you asked me for, did you have enough?
Yeah.
Is there enough?
Jeez.
Okay, I haven't
No,
seen.
John got one. Yeah.
So, if you look at, just flip on the back section, the number I gave you was, the numbers, is what was pulled. The 30,000 was actually a little different, and the reason I say 30 for the generator is because we've already purchased the one for the building now.
What?
It's already been
I've
purchased.
been talking about that for ages,
That's it.
upgrading it and seeing if it could come out of the highway budget before we bought the one that was in the plans, so that we wouldn't have to go back and reinstall the generator.
Do you know what size?
I
I
don't
don't know what it is.
I don't
but it's
know.
like, they haven't installed it, have they?
It's not been installed, and I
We
asked
own
the
it.
same, I don't know, I mean, I don't know that it's, I mean, I've been told it was purchased.
Yeah.
I don't know,
I think I think we own it.
I don't know if there's any more discussion that could be had
Well,
in regards to it.
Well, I think we'd have to find out.
Yeah.
Well, we need to go with a number tomorrow, so I put it in there, whether
Okay.
we talk about it and change the number at the end. But in order for Tom to move forward, you know, to go to CIP tomorrow, I had to have some sort of number. I can take it out of there, you can take it out of there, and we can have a discussion, but that's the number.
well, we could just be upfront with it in the presentation.
Correct.
I think so, yeah. That's probably best.
And as you get to the end of the year, you might be able to get a different number, is what I'm
Yep.
saying, but tomorrow we have to finish it right with your presentations.
Mhm.
So the 182, as I broke down, is the system, the piping, and the tank, and the 50 was, the thought was to go off the corner
With the pump room.
with a pump room. So you have to enclose that
Mm-hmm.
for the water not to freeze.
Usually.
Now,
So that's constructing.
adequate generator, 30,000, and that is for a new generator?
It would be for an adequate generator
Yes.
for just.
So the upgrade from what we have, I don't know what we paid for.
And I'm just saying, I threw that together, I just got this tonight, so I think
Yeah.
we should be upfront and we should look into it.
Yeah.
But I put a number there and it could be.
Because I thought the generator was gonna be more expensive than that.
Well, it depends. You may get a generator just for that system that's 30,000. But you may end up, if you had to get one to power the building, you may be talking more money to do two
To
duties.
do both.
Mm.
I
Do
don't know.
both.
I
So
mean,
that's a question, unless you know what your,
Well, I did it
drawer
as
is
a
gonna be
placeholder,
and
and that's
what
like I
the-
said, I did it as a placeholder.
yeah.
But I think we
And
can
I-
have it.
I think that
So
it's,
is this for a separate generator? This 30,000 for a separate
don't know.
generator?
I'm guessing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, Tom, I don't.
I mean, you may not be powering the building. You know, you're not gonna, if you have a fire in there, you're gonna knock the power's probably gonna go out anyway. So you're gonna have a separate generator just to fire the pump to turn around, and it's not gonna have any other issue. It's not gonna have any other, probably,
Yeah.
command on it that it's gonna be to put the fire out. It's gonna run that fire pump to put the water in, because
Yeah, if you go back and.
the other one's for power loss from the street, that if you turn around and have that, and if, normally, if you're gonna have a fire in the building, it's gonna be.
You think
that
it's
big.
low? I'm just asking.
Oh, I don't know, I think
Low, if we're talking about a big
A whole
generator
system.
that would run the
Yeah.
whole
Run
building
everything.
and this. That's what I meant.
because I
We
mean,
never really had any discussion back when we were doing the plans, as far as 2 generators. We were discussing a
No, a
generator with
generator.
enough capacity to carry the pump as well.
the other, yeah, because I mean, the generator you're gonna have, that's going in there now, is gonna, put 480, 240, they're gonna have 3-phase in
Yeah,
there.
at least 240, yeah.
Yeah, they're gonna have 3-phase, and this one probably would not be a 3-phase pump, I'm not sure.
Well, but that rolls back to the fact of, I mean, having a little bit of experience with it.
Yeah.
John Stark has an electric pump. The middle school has a 4-cylinder diesel Kubota fire pump.
Yeah, they got a couple generators out there. So-
But I mean, you don't need a huge generator to run
No.
a diesel motor.
No.
I don't know what would be entailed on. I don't know how much that pump. I don't know what the cost difference is between having a diesel powered pump versus 480.
But I think that's a number at least we can present for the time being
I
to
think-
work with.
I think it's a placeholder
It's a
cur-
placeholder.
currently,
And
right?
This is what,
Yeah, I mean,
Right.
and you have to tell them, I mean, if you're gonna present it tomorrow, there's no way we're gonna get the answer by tomorrow.
right, and
Right.
I'm just saying that you can finalize up until the end of the year with
So-
numbers.
So I
Right.
say at this
But you
point,
got- yeah.
So if you go into it with 260 and you come out and you need 240, I'm just,
Yeah.
or,
I don't
if you
know.
need 280, or something, at least it's a number. You
Yeah.
got a number as a placeholder.
So we've got.
Yeah, I'd leave it on there as a placeholder.
Yep.
Okay. That's surprising, the amount of it. I was thinking in the 180 range. That's what we talked about back when.
right, but I think part of, I'm not sure how much of it, but when they were gonna do the construction,
They were gonna alter the
it
building
was
for it.
gonna do the footprint of the building was gonna be inclusive of the structure. And then when
Some-
we didn't include that structure,
It's
now it's all
additional.
flat, now it's all done, you're gonna have to make a new
Foundation and
foundation
everything.
and a wall.
The other
and-
thing too, is some of that too, was talking about piping it coming down off the hill with a cistern for a fire system too, with some of the pricing and that.
Mm-hmm.
To try to do it gravity feed.
Gravity feed, that was the original plan, and then they got changed.
Yeah, but then when you turn the building that way, the only way to extend it's that way,
Mm-hmm.
which is gonna run over your piping to your cistern.
Right.
That's why it got moved to the side of the building and, cause they got shifted.
I mean, some of these prices were all thrown around during that time, so who knows?
Right.
All we need for tomorrow is this,
Yep.
and the
And
bottom line can
Removes
be altered
imminent threat to
anyway.
public
up
safety
until we
and
can-
health.
Right, you just have to run it by the CIP.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I have enough copies, Tom, for tomorrow. I made enough for tomorrow.
Anybody, any other comments on this? You do want it to go forward. Everybody
Yep.
wants it to go
Yep.
forward.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Now, do we have any other? What was it? Do we have the other CIP requests as well, as far as the bell tower and the town hall improvements,
You
or no?
only have the bell tower.
Okay.
The only one we're gonna do is a project. We're trying to get some numbers that you can add to the fund.
Yeah.
Okay.
But they're small, they're smaller projects, not one project.
Okay.
So the two projects that the board has submitted is the bell tower and this one,
Okay.
or will be submitted.
Okay.
The next item, Tom, is we put out an RFP for auditing services. They all know that you're going to open them tonight. I would just like you to tell me who you opened, and then there should be 6 copies in there, one for each one of you to take and review. There'll be no decisions tonight, because there's a lot of information you're gonna have to decipher on it. It's not gonna be, okay, here's the price, here's the price, here's the price. You're gonna have to read through it, kinda like you did with the cameras. So, you have Robertson Green, you have Melanson Heath, you have Plodwick and Sanderson, and you have Vashon Keefe. And there should be 6 copies, one for all of you and me.
Everybody gets one to open?
I guess so. It's like Christmas.
Not quite. John's,
That's fine.
John's on his own.
Yeah, I didn't, that one came out overnight, and then some of them are taped pretty well, so don't cut yourself open.
I don't have the,
Switchblade.
I'll switch with it here.
yeah, my switchblade is,
Jane's got hers.
Yeah, but I have another one inside.
Double packed. I opened up green. Yep. What did you get for a Christmas present?
I don't know.
Yeah, I know. You want the cut? If it's 6, it's 1 for you too,
What
right?
did you get? You got Melanson. Ken's got Melanson, and I've got, I don't know.
2.
You like Johnny Carson? I got Plodzik and Sanderson. And Tom got Melanson and Heath.
I have
I'll show 'em. Here you go.
And I'll take a cover letter if there is one.
There's no cover letter.
That's why I didn't know. I don't need the envelopes, they can go in the garbage behind you.
I'm just looking to make sure there's no.
I'll take a draft.
Here's one for Tom.
Here, it's behind Tom.
And I guess one's
Behind you.
One's for me.
One's for you.
Okay, take one down, you pass it around. Here, we look.
I
What?
got an extra one here. John, get one of those?
You get one of these?
Uh,
I don't have a batch
Should,
of it.
Fashion,
Yeah.
that one goes back
No,
to Tom.
no, John didn't get a Melanson and
You-
Heath.
you-
I got that one.
oh,
Okay.
Yeah, Melanson.
Did you?
You did?
Oh,
Okay.
You get an extra one.
That's mine.
I got
Yeah.
Vashon, Melanson, and
Lots of-
And you got Procter and Green coming that way?
yeah.
Okay, I'll take that one. Yeah, you can have that.
Oh, that's a nice
Pass that down.
one. That'll be light reading.
You have 2?
Sold.
So we should have 4 total.
You should have a total of 4.
I've got 4. Good.
You have 4?
2, 3, 4. Okay,
All right.
good. What it
What's
is.
this? An extra?
I don't know how much of it you want to talk about, but,
Extra.
This is an extra.
Robinson Green.
Maybe you
Yeah.
could
I'll
have
give one
Beth
to
go
Beth.
through
Oh,
them
yeah.
all, because I remember when we did this for assessing,
yeah.
that they came back so varied in what they were offering.
Well, you see, the thicknesses are different.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's an
So-
extra one? Here you go.
Yeah, I'll get that.
That ended up back where we started, only because we couldn't decipher what was being offered by other companies when we were talking about there were so many ifs, ands, and buts
Right.
in the bids that we got on assessing. So hopefully these are something we can.
These are ours to keep, right?
They're yours to keep and read through, and I was thinking, I'm not sure that I get to it on the 16th, and I'll explain that when I get to my administrator report, because I'm hoping that we can set the tax rate on the 16th, so I'm not sure how my agenda was set up yet.
That'd be nice.
Well, we're waiting a couple of things. They're under review right now, so.
One of the things that I was going to bring up is whether or not we would need can, but if we can set the tax rate that early, we probably won't.
We usually look to do it around October, because we like to print and get out of here. The bills no later, they usually out by Halloween. So they're paid December 1st.
So Vashon
But one of the
already does
first,
this.
but one of the, you can throw it behind you, Tom, I don't need it. So, I mean, you guys can have and read them over, but I will have Beth, and then maybe have Beth to see, you know, we can have Beth in the night, we talk about
Yeah,
it.
she would be able to better make the comparisons.
Right, and she's worked with, you know, the auditors now for a couple of years, so.
I think these people are daring too.
Okay. Yeah, I think in the back there's supposed to be other,
They get the list of the places that they've done work for.
yeah, it'll be a good reading too.
Next thing we have, if we're all set with this, is our minutes. And minutes of September 25th. I had to search high and low to find anything in here that needed to be changed, so I think you did a good job.
I don't have anything, but I do have to.
Excuse yourself.
You know, I just had the very last page, I had 2 little things other than that.
I just had one in the first one.
What was that?
Third line up from the bottom. the candidate will be subject, and be,
It could be either way. You could say the
Will
subject
subject.
will subject to a 6-month,
yeah,
so it could be either way. If it's clear, it will be subjected,
or will be subject to.
will be, yeah, yeah, I think I'll be doing that. Anything else on page 1? Page 2? Three?
Nope.
Yeah, moving right along here.
Yeah.
4?
Awesome.
5, I have 2 things. One very small one, third line up. One of the 2 sinks works, and the other is one stall. I just put an S on works because one works.
Yeah, one of the 2 things.
And then in the next to the last line, other issues to be on this list are it says roof, but it really meant the ceiling in the town administrator's office. So I just changed roof to ceiling.
And then I had also mentioned the ceiling in the conservation room.
Oh.
Yeah,
Okay, in
So
town
that-
administrator's office and conservation room,
yeah.
so that's ceilings. In town administrator's office and anything else?
Yeah, one last thing. I don't know what a vice chairman is, but it should be a chairman on the last line where when we close the meeting. Chairman.
It's a long night.
I'm surprised you didn't catch that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a long night.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. Move to approve the September 25th minutes as amended.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Manifest. I move to order the treasurer to sign the payroll and accounts payable checks dated October 15th, 2017, as included in the following manifests. Payroll, $49,638.11. Fire department monthly payroll, $17,950.75. Accounts payable of $25,479.23, and a check to John Stark Regional Payable Manifest of $250,000. So the total is $341,068.09. Mary, do you know if the per diem payroll has been switched over to weekly yet, or is that?
I believe it has.
Yeah, so that 49,000.
Yeah, because your last couple of weeks have been higher by about 10.
Okay.
Yeah.
And as there is no selectmen's meeting scheduled for Monday, November 9th, 2017, October, what did they say?
September,
Okay, well, I'm
He's
wrong.
going
I thought
back.
you said November.
Yeah.
It does say October, I'll underline it.
You said, yeah, you said it's the payroll dated for October 19th, too, up above.
Oh, come on, I didn't do that. It says October.
No, but I said October 19th.
Wow, moving right along.
Month's gone
I
already.
don't think I said that, but never mind. It says October 5th, 2017. And we also vote to order the treasurer to sign payroll checks dated October 12th, 2017, estimated to be about $60,000. Furthermore, to order the treasurer to sign up to $50,000 for accounts payable that cannot wait until the next scheduled meeting of October 16th without incurring late charges or interest. Reports and actual check amounts should be reported to the Board of Selectmen by inclusion on the manifest memo at the next scheduled meeting. Is there a second to all that?
Second.
Sure.
And is there any question or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
all right, I'm just gonna, this put on my desk, I didn't wanna put it in there, cause I know some of you had signed, this came from assessing it, there's a, abatement and a land use change tax that needs signature by the board. I'll send that down. The first thing, I didn't get a chance to gather today, but I think I also sent you guys the state auction is going to happen on Saturday, October 14th. With that being said, we, at this point, we're going to, 3 of the police cars are gonna go, the black car from the DPW is gonna go, and I haven't heard yet, there was some talk from the fire chief that he was gonna try to box up and send over the extraction tools or the jaws of life
Yeah, the old
to
ones.
put that in the auction. So with that being said, part of the guidelines to disposing of this, we have to, the vehicles will need a title, and I don't know what the title is, but the title needs to be signed and dated October 14th. Whereas I don't have the titles available today, and the drop-off dates are Thursday and Friday this week, they have to be signed. It would be if you gave me permission to sign the titles per an order or for your motion, I will find the titles and get them when they go over. I think Benji's gonna take them over, because they have to go, paperwork has to go with the car to the end of this week. So I didn't get them, I mean, I gotta find the 4 titles with that paperwork, but I think with authorization, I could sign them for you. I don't need anything for the extraction tools, because there's no title.
I move to authorize the.
Second.
You know.
Sign the titles for those vehicles.
Yeah, for said vehicles.
Yeah, I just have to sign it, I don't have to, they issue it that day. Thank you. You gonna vote?
Yeah, all in favor.
Aye.
I
Second?
just had something else to comment on that, related to it. I don't know if this is the case or not, but I was reading an article unrelated to us that dealt with the auction. The state gets 60%?
They get some of it,
Usually the auctioneer is 8, and they
5%.
he's down to 5 now.
Yeah.
Okay.
It depends on what's,
Yeah, this was something that was in the Monitor, and it was talking about being auctioned. It said the state gets 60%.
Maybe of their equipment,
Yeah, it was
of what they sell, because most of the stuff they sell there is theirs, not
yeah.
not municipality.
Theirs, and it comes out of the federal system.
Because it says the check is payable to the town minus a yard fee of $5%.
That's it.
Right.
And then the auctioneer's fee.
Yeah, and then the auctioneer's fee ties on top of that. It's usually like 7%.
So it depends.
Trust me, I've been to plenty of his auctions up there. I don't know.
Well, some of them, they have the buyers.
Buyer's premium, yeah.
Premium, so you pay it.
Then they tag another 3% for credit cards.
We have a proposal for work for surveying the right of way on East Shore Drive, that we discussed, but we don't have to enter into it. Somebody's gonna have to sign this to get them started. I can't do that. It's 20,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We gotta go through the whole names, right?
I mean, you just can sign the contract for proposed work by, you
Yeah.
can motion it, however you want to motion.
Well,
You have to authorize the chair.
where's it coming from?
Where you talk about legal.
Okay. Move to have the chairman sign the proposal from Keach, Nordstrom and Associates for survey work on East Shore Drive to come from the legal line. Estimated total $2,800 to $3,400.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and this next one will segue into my report. I reached out to Team Engineer to have them come out and look at the venting for the attic roof in this building. Well, that turned into a engineer for assessing the structural framing of this building, because I told them about the ice damming and things like that. So what they want to do is they want to come out and inspect the attic, and they're going to provide assessment, for the structural, provide an assessment of the likelihood that structural framing can support modern insulation levels And that would be our conceptual recommendation of repair for roofing, if it cannot. We'll also provide our concepts on repair for insulation, air sealing, and ventilation. We'll get a report, and this is gonna be a minimum of $950 to have them come out to do all that.
Yeah, well, the maximum. Plus, I was talking with Chick today, and he mentioned, what I believe you had talked about, this door out here
Mhm.
on
Yeah.
this building, and then insulation in there, and an inner door as well, because you said we're getting a lot of cold coming in from there, so I don't know whether you wanna,
Well,
Well, I
let's
don't
take
know.
care of one thing at a time with this. It's,
Hmm.
I don't know if we need them for that.
No.
It's pretty clear, it's supposed to be sheet rock with something that's fire coated sheet rock
Right,
in it,
fire,
and
yeah.
then a door
He
on, the
just
fire
said-
door on the
yeah.
inside there. And
Another
that goes
project for
back
Dave.
like 10 years.
Another project
project
for
for
Dave.
Dave.
Yeah, actually, you're right.
And
No, see it?
So I don't, they first wanna go up and make sure that structurally we can do whatever it's gonna do, and then they'll
should
give
have
us.
done that before they put the new roof on.
Well, then they'll give us a recommendation of what to do for the venting and the insulation and the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a minimum of $950. I don't know.
Come out of the government building maintenance fund.
But it's for one person to sign again, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's for the chair.
Well, you.
Place to sign.
can we ask what the maximum would be?
I think it talks on there an hourly rate.
Okay.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
they said 5 hours.
Yeah.
They're
Oh,
estimating
okay.
5 hours.
I mean, I didn't.
Yeah, so it's pretty simple math, that point,
Okay,
175 an hour.
It'll be $10,000.
Well, Tom will get it.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
signing it.
That's right. Okay. But we share, right?
Sure. Two-piece.
We're
Yeah,
a
right.
sharing group.
The sign the
I
thing.
was gonna say something I can't, but
Okay.
concerning our prior legal activities.
Make a motion that the chairman sign the, what does he call it? The assessment from Team
Agreement.
Engineering for the roof and attic ceiling
Assessment.
of the town hall building for 900, minimum of 900, what does it say, 950?
Correct. Come from the government building maintenance.
Come from the government building maintenance fund. Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Jane, you wanna
Aye.
check and make sure I put the right date on there? Just to-
Well, we don't know.
Walk into the twilight
Okay,
zone.
so-
Good dates
So
tonight.
back to the,
I've
I
done my
did
proper
have
dates all
a,
my life.
we started, Dave Huey, we had a conversation today about the handicap ramp and replacing the door, one on the back door and one on the furnace room.
Yeah, I think that needs to be like a fire door or something in
I
there.
don't think so,
I
solid
don't
door.
think so. Wood door, furnace room.
The town hall.
Town hall.
Yeah, the furnace room, I don't know, we didn't discuss that, but maybe Chip should weigh in on it.
Okay.
I think
As
usually
far
those
as-
Chip
have
and
to be
Vizina.
fire-coated
Yeah.
door.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't know.
So to do the handicap ramp, to paint it, to do everything you want to do, and Tom talked with him too, because he came in today, was about $2,300 plus he doesn't know what the cost of the door for the furnace is.
Mm-hmm.
But that would be the estimate that it would be roughly that. That includes materials,
And
the
that,
paint
What-
and
I don't know.
his time.
okay.
And that includes a gutter along the,
It's gonna have a gutter along the, aluminum gutter along the roof. Yeah.
Okay.
That would come out of government building as
we
well.
did go in and measure the old doors that were taken off,
Okay.
and one of those will be usable, probably the one off the handicap door, or the one next to it, because those were the least warped on that side.
Okay.
And they also don't have cutouts for the hardware
Oh.
because there wasn't an outside handle on those, so he has a fresh
Template to go with.
slab to work with without having to worry about patching up the old holes for the project. So the width is almost the same, like less than an inch difference.
Good.
And,
Plus or minus.
yeah.
No, I mean, is it,
Oh,
the
it's,
door's bigger?
the doors are bigger, so you
Oh,
can trim
okay.
the door
That's
down.
Good.
And the same thing with the height, they're similar. So the things that can be trimmed, the bottom and the side.
So the list, just so it's clear what the list was for him was the furnace door, the back door, and
The handicap ramp.
as far as,
He's gonna paint,
Gutter.
and there's a couple spindles that are bent, and the whole
Yeah.
top is all separated.
okay,
So there's the top of it's gonna be replaced.
Yep.
There's a couple spindles, it's all gonna be painted,
okay,
and there's going to be paint on the ramp itself, even though it's
concrete,
concrete. He can still
From the epoxy paint?
he
okay,
can do the epoxy paint
and to put the gutter up.
and the gutter.
Got
The
a
only thing I don't know
downspout.
about is the door.
Yeah, the
Fire
downspout
door.
on the gutter will be on the far end, it'll attach to one of the legs of the fire escape.
Okay,
You go.
sounds good.
So the only you don't know about is the door for the furnace.
I don't know, because we're gonna have to consult.
Chip and find out if
For
it
fire
needs
door
any fire.
purposes.
What Dave was gonna do is get a pre-hung door because with an aluminum threshold.
Yep.
Because the threshold's all rotted out.
Yep,
Needs
makes sense.
Needs a kickboard underneath it.
Makes sense to me.
So, you know,
Yeah, see what he's just gonna
the
get.
amount of work and everything, pretty good price.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that includes the material.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 'cause maybe get a steel pipe that's pretty hung and stuff.
Right.
Alright, I don't know if you wanna make a motion or you wanna move down. That's pretty much all I had there for now. I don't know, once he gets working around the building, we still have to talk about rot, as far as getting a price. Jan and John, I think I left the copies of the old thing that we got the first time around in your mailboxes, okay.
Yep.
You got new printouts that Beth sent via Friday. Actually, things don't look too bad. The big three departments are actually better off than some of the others,
Yeah.
if you looked at them.
They're all around 33%.
They're all around 33%, yeah. I'm gonna move further down, the hawkers and peddlers, and the next three items, and the reason for that, I wasn't sure where we're gonna, I may flip them and do some on the 16th, it's gonna depend, I'm kinda waiting on, I'm hoping my tax rate setting will be my priority to fit in. So that's why I'm kinda leaving it loose, but I wanna get these three addressed in October. And I gotta just double check that we're done so that Beth and I can come in with the smaller departments and the wages for the budgets.
Yep.
So it's kinda loose for the next three, but my priority's gonna be tax rate setting first.
Yep.
So, the other thing is I also got a gentleman that, and I think it'd be worthwhile for you, but to invite the employees in as well too, or tune in. There's a gentleman, from the retirement system that would like to just come and explain to you how it all works. I think it would be very
Absolutely.
informational for you and for us.
Yep.
I've listened to it, I thought it was very fascinating, but, I'll invite the employees as well, and you can ask him any questions. It's been very knowledgeable. We had him at the, municipal managers meeting for September. We always have somebody, and he was very, very good, and so I reached out to him, and he got back to me and said he could do the 16th. So I'm hoping to get him in too, because that would get you an understanding as budget season goes on too. So that would be the 16th, tax rate setting, and I'll fit in the other things that I can fit in. And then this is kind of my last hurrah in the bottom. I'm on vacation, but it's a working vacation down somewhere else for the Snowmobile Club, so. I don't know what you can do about the town hall with Dave. That'd be my last thing.
Do about what?
Town hall with Dave Huey. That hasn't been,
I gotta be honest. I like Dave's work, but I do believe that Section 8 of the purchasing policy requires three quotes for this. It's over $1,000. And I've been a stickler about that, and I'm gonna stick to it this time as well. Like I said, I it's not because of who it is or the scope of work. I think he'd be great for the job, but we put the purchasing policy in use for a reason, and I think we should follow it.
You do have the option of waiving it too.
I know,
In certain situations.
but
The difficulty is gonna get three.
I
Gonna get three.
yeah, I realize that,
The
but
doors, we had to literally beg for people to put in the,
then
on those,
uh,
in order to get two more. If we just had the one from Boston.
right.
What if we put it in the messenger?
I mean, I don't want to stab the process off a lot, and I'm 100% that, but
And I can probably tell you after some of the last go-around we've had.
it's going to be even harder.
Nobody's gonna wanna.
It's going to be even harder, right? But to me, if we're gonna sidestep it ourselves, that's not right.
I'm just gonna share it with you. The other thing you can find, the contractors are very busy right now doing homes and not the little projects.
I agree.
But if we put it out to bid and nobody bids other than.
Then that's
him,
the way it is.
Right.
That's the way it is.
That's the
But
way it would be.
to me, we have to follow our own purchasing policy.
You're talking time,
I know.
you're talking colder weather moving up on us.
I'm just one board member's opinion.
I passed
Right.
that policy for way too
And-
much, and I agree with you, Ricky.
I'll share with you the problem you're gonna run into too if we don't move, and may or may not be. Dave has gone all over researching to match the handicap ramp top that's there.
Mhm.
And the only place that had it, and they only had a little bit left, was Home Depot. And once they get it, they're not gonna get any more for the season, so. I mean, that's just telling you what the dilemma we're gonna be up against, and you're gonna see it sit there for another winter if that's the case.
Mhm.
Because you're gonna have to special order the top railing, and it's gonna rain on it again for one more winter and everything else, so.
What if we had two motions, one that we waive the purchasing policy for the project, and then a second one on approving the project if the first one moves. If the first one doesn't move, then we won't go on with the second.
And I guess, I mean, you asked me to get him a price, he spent all weekend running around getting a price, and now we're gonna put him off. I'm just saying, I mean, if we wanted to put it out to bid, we should have done it before,
Well,
because I wouldn't have wasted his time calling him, and he ran to Home Depot and Lowe's and everywhere else to get prices to give us a number. And now, you know, if we would have done that, I would have gotten a hold of two others if we were gonna bid against each other, but, and I hear with both sides of it, but he spent a tremendous amount of time running around to get a decent price for us, and I think that's a decent price for what you're gonna get, but that's just.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
Because we talked about even hiring him for an hourly rate for a certain amount too, before.
Mhm. You're right.
No, I clearly understand, and I mean, he came through for us out front here
Mhm.
in short notice,
Sure.
out there in the hot sun. I mean, I totally understand. But the policy, I thought, read that we needed to get three. Was there a waiver in there?
There is at the end.
Yep.
There is at the end
Okay.
that we can override it.
I think that this is a side issue, but it relates to that we should take a look at that number. It takes so little work to eat up $1,000 nowadays, and doesn't relate to the issue on the table tonight.
An overall issue.
Yeah, but the overall issue, I think maybe we should take a look at that amount in there, that $1,000, because, you know, even just painting those 4 doors over there costs $1,250. I don't know if that's a realistic base amount
Yeah.
nowadays. We might want to up that to a different amount. Things have changed. You know, CIP used to have a floor of 10,000. Anything over 10,000 needed to go through CIP, and they raised that to 15,000. So 1,000, even again unrelated to tonight, you might even consider something like 2,500. Another discussion, but I
Right.
think it's one we should have soon.
Yep, you're right. Times have changed definitely since that policy was written on what stuff costs nowadays. Mm-hmm.
And I think that probably hasn't been revised for 10 years.
Almost, I think it was 08.
I didn't look at the date.
I think it's an 08.
I wouldn't doubt it at all.
Either
A lot,
way, either.
a lot of these are outdated policies. 6/2 of 08.
Almost there.
Well, I'm gonna put a motion on the floor then, and then we can either vote for it or, and I would move that we hire, Dick Hewley to do the work described with the money that comes out of the government building maintenance fund over the, what was that amount?
It was 23, but it's plus the door. I don't know what the door is.
Yeah, we'll have to, if you got it in country period, it's separate, we could bill us separately.
Well, I think let's get on the table first and worry about the door for
We can do the door later.
the door later. Yeah,
I
it's
can
a
get
separate,
three
it's a
prices from
separate
somewhere.
project.
But he included the installation of that. And
Well, that's for the back door for the boiler room, so I
Right,
don't
he
think
included
that
the
was
installations in the
Yeah.
price of the total.
all the work
Yeah.
is included, everything except the price of whatever he
The
had to
door.
buy the back door.
But I can bring you a price of the door back, because I gotta see if it's fireproof or not fireproof.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yeah.
we measured, thinking maybe we could use one of those old
Right.
doors for that, but they're like about 10 inches too wide.
So are you done with your motion?
Okay.
I'll second under section 14 of the purchasing policy, due to time and availability of components. Which section 14 is the, when we can override it.
a
Any
motion in
other
a second.
discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I
Abstention?
know, abstain.
Now, can we make
I don't
another
think so,
motion
I
right
think-
now of that purchasing policy?
I'd like to think about
It's something we can talk
Well, I
about.
I think what we should do is look at all aspects, not just jump to that one section, and you can do your revisions and we can have it here, and then we can do it all at once. But there may be other, okay, I get your
Neither do I, so don't do that.
copy, John.
I get a copy.
I read over
John,
Rick's
Jan,
shoulder.
and Jeff,
I read over Ricky's shoulder.
3
over-
J's,
The 3 J's.
3 J's.
Board of Selectmen at the time. Tom, you were on the board when that was accepted. Wendy Clark, Helene Kirk,
John,
Dick Butt,
I'll
and
get you
Keith.
guys all one electronically to start.
Few days ago.
Yeah,
Because I know we
Yeah.
have it on there, I'll just
Yeah.
zip it to you guys. But I think you should look at all sections,
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
just the one,
No, I agree.
you know, and see
Yeah.
how outdated some things are or not.
The numbers are up to 1,000, 1,000 to 5,000, and then 2,500 to 5,000,
depends on what
and then over 5.
But there's other parts of it too, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Those are just the numbers.
Okay, anything else?
That's all I have. Can I just have everything? Everything that's missing?
Oh, that folder.
Yes. I did check that. I had to send one down to get another one. It's right there.
Public comment. Rachel, you want anything to make that?
We haven't bored you to death
Thank
yet?
you for staying. Gets kind of empty out there, gets lonely in here, you know.
Tourist.
Correspondence? Other business?
Yep, got a couple things.
A couple things. I got a
Go ahead.
few,
Go ahead first.
There's a comment made to me today, and I don't know who would be addressed, but it was with the school kids. They have the cross-country team from the Weare Middle School, and they're out running, and they come up, I think Buzzell Hill, part of it, and they were coming out through there today, and they almost got run over by speeding school buses. Going back to the barn, and plus traffic in general at times yield to them. So that was something that I had to make sure to address somehow, and I'm not sure if we have to
Do you?
address that to the bus company
Or to the school
Well,
board.
you can
or
do
the
it to
school board
I can do it to the school board,
board.
the bus company, and the police.
and the police, and maybe have Benji take a look at the speed limit out there. I'm not sure what it is out there. They were coming on the East Street.
I believe it's 35 out there.
Oh, okay. Getting closer to the school. But
Yeah, I would go to
all of the above.
Yeah.
Well, I can do it, I mean, you can do it the DPW, we can.
Yeah, so
everybody-
Benji's aware of it anyway, but the rest of it is, yeah, the bus is going back to the barn, they're flying up
There's
there.
no, there's no real, I mean, that's our, no pun intended, that's our trash route for we take that road on the weekend,
Yeah.
you know, and that there's no shoulder.
No, and the
You
kids,
And I didn't realize that was their route.
yes, and not all the time, they do different routes. Sometimes they run up the breakdown lane up 114, the top of, Mount Williams, and turn around and come back again. They have, depends on what, like today was a short day, so they run out there and down Buffalo Hill and back again. It's only, they get out at 2 when they were down at a little after 3, so.
Okay.
I brought up something a couple weeks ago about the Joint Loss Management Committee and,
Yep.
Unfortunately, this is $250 a day fine if we're not in compliance. I don't know what to do. I mean, I don't know what we should do.
As far as not fixing their recommendations, and them not meeting.
No, without them meeting, without us fine. There are, under the RSA, there's different guidelines. One, you need to have the policy that you're gonna follow, and I'm sure that when Chris handed over the information, that
big
was
huge
part of
bag.
it.
Yep.
Okay. The other thing is that the Joint Management Committee needs to meet.
Quarterly, yeah.
Yeah, and there was something else on here, but for each one of those, you can get a $250 a day fine. So I think it's imperative that we do something. I don't,
Is that something that we ran by our new library director when he was hired, or no?
Yeah.
About being a member of
Member
it?
of the, yes, I do remember that was brought up at that time.
I don't remember if it was brought up with him or
I don't
not.
remember if it was brought up on.
Him, but I remember it
Right.
being brought up during the time he was.
Right, well, I think maybe we should revisit
When was
that.
the last time that they had a meeting of the Joint Loss
June
Committee?
10th of 2016.
Not, you don't necessarily mean that he's supposed to assume the chair.
No,
But
but
he's.
if they're short a member, then he should be on it.
I think it's each department.
I'm sure.
Each department's supposed to have a representative.
Yeah. I mean,
Right.
the ones that were at this meeting were Ray Eaton, Chris obviously, Sharon, Chip Meany, Matt McLean, Bill St. Cyr was here.
Primex comes every time he was here.
So wonder they haven't said something.
Well, I was thinking that.
Well, I guess we ought to get a little,
Time to rekindle it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if the same people were contacted as representatives from each department.
Oh, before,
and then
yeah.
they could appoint somebody if they're not.
Some of them have changed, so.
Some of them changed, right?
Mhm.
Probably Matt McLean then wasn't, you were still working, weren't you, at 16? Or
No.
No,
So Matt was.
Matt was just taking
Yeah, he's
over,
probably for the transfer.
and Chris had looked, just before
Where's your
Chris left.
contract for that?
She's not.
Thank you.
But we all get mileage, reasonable mileage.
Well, that's right, that's only last year.
That's what he's
It's
doing.
gone for 2 years.
Yeah, I know, I have to comply with this, even with the small amount of people we had in the store. For a while, then they changed it, I think, to 10, 15 or more employees.
So,
Well, if we don't, if we do it, if we just leave it hanging, then 2 weeks from now, we'll be right where we are now.
Which is why I'm bringing it up again, okay.
So,
What is it, Naomi? Was there somebody, not anyone that wanted to chair it? Is that what it was?
There's resistance of even being on it.
Really?
Yep,
Well,
I can't.
We paid for the
I'm not even part of it.
pastries on that.
They asked me to sit in, but
come on.
I didn't make that meeting every
who
day.
does appoint them?
I'd have to look up, she gave me a big canvas bag of
Yeah.
everything. It's still sitting right by my bookshelf. And it has all the stuff, that's all the joint loss stuff.
I'm assuming the Board of Selectmen is gonna do this. I mean,
Well, that's
we
what
are
Flex
the-
stops.
Right, I mean, and as the employer, and assume we have to take the responsibility.
Because there was a certain makeup of department heads and certain makeup of members, employees, because you can't be heavy on one side
Yeah.
than the other. And then the chairman, and then somebody take minutes, and Chris did a great job. And I think it ran so smoothly because she set one meeting to the next meeting, but she was done the end of June, so that was her last meeting. There was no July or.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the last thing in the minutes said the next meeting will be September 9th, 2016. So. And I don't think a meeting was held.
No,
Is there any?
I don't think so.
Well,
We can research it and see, and I don't know that you can force someone to be on a committee, but
No.
I don't know what you
if
do
we
in that.
take it, and I'm not trying to put it off, but,
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you're gonna go on a vacation, we don't want you to have to do this while you're on vacation, so maybe
Trust me.
right after you get back, if you
Yeah,
could,
yeah, I'm gonna
pull
be
that
back, I can
out.
do it that week and
That's-
pull it all
that's
together.
just next week.
See what the composition is, and then see what we have.
Yep.
'Cause I can check around from those that are on it and see if they still wanna be on it, and then if there's department heads we're lacking, I can ask the department heads. Or if it's employees we're lacking, I can do that as well.
Have them pull employees.
Oh, wait a second, it says employee representatives shall be selected by the employees.
Cool. But then again, they can elect you, but then you can elect not to. I
Right.
think that's what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah.
See if you can get people.
Some of them, they just
Okay.
ask anybody
I think just a
interested.
little, cajoling.
Sometimes you just ask if there's anybody interested, and you may only get one response, so. That's the way it works in most of them.
Okay, so if we could put it on hold until,
Yeah,
after next
16th.
Tuesday.
We've got 2 weeks anyway to
Yeah.
the next meeting, so.
Anything else?
Yeah, just a couple things. Any further information on Clinton Grove? With the shoring of the floor?
No, Sharon was gonna give me them. I have not gotten anything from her.
Okay,
I can reach out
that's fine.
again.
A couple weeks ago, there was an invoice for a disposal company that we didn't know about. We
Yeah,
put-
that was for here,
Okay,
right up there.
Oh.
We don't have a dumpster, we have 3 cans.
okay,
And they've always done it for that, and they didn't increase the price. Beth said we've always had them.
Okay.
Because
Nice.
we don't have a dumpster.
I just remember seeing them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And to go along with the update from the clerk of the works, I don't know what the board's feeling is, but I'd like to push, not knowing, I mean, it's a CIP request, and I understand that, but I'd like to push the fact of basically while some of the vehicles are down at the highway department, temporary building, that we start putting in battery shutoffs in those as a temporary solution for no sprinklers.
I believe, yeah, you're supposed to do that anyway, so.
Well, and make sure they're functional. That's the other thing too. They may have them on there, but make sure they're functional.
And, you know, probably even some kind of a checklist so to make sure they're used.
Yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah, they're no good if they're not used.
Right. Again, I had mentioned that when we were talking about the removal of the suppression and putting that in there as a backstop for now. I'd like to see that carried
I
out.
believe Benji said he was gonna do that.
Yeah. So I mean, here we.
He may have already done it for all we know.
New
And I-
trucks that
Have
come
'em.
with it,
Right.
but the old ones is only like $100 or something to.
Right, yeah, it's a cable and a switch. It's not a huge number. So I just like to see that start happening where we're closing in on a month and a half to those vehicles being in that building, that we see that make sure that those are utilized. So just a quick reminder to him about that. The car show that was up at John Stark this weekend went well. They had I think it was 27 or 29 entries. I didn't win anything. I was appalled. No, no. It was a good show. It was
That's how you really feel.
yeah. It was a good time. It was good to see a lot of the community come together up there for a mutual activity. So So,
What did you enter? Do you have something?
yeah, I entered my big truck in doubles. So, they said I had the biggest truck. Well, that was true, but
They didn't give you an award for that?
no. There's no ribbons for that participation
You
apparently.
did win.
Best of show was a F100 red pickup. I don't recognize who it was. Ken White got the judge's choice. Most unique was an Army truck from Bow Road, and there was one more. I forget what the other one. Oh, under construction, it was a rock crawling Jeep. They thought it needed some fenders and stuff put on it. So, but yeah, again, it was fun. They had a bouncy house up there. The weather was perfect. Couldn't ask for a better day on Sunday. So no, it was a good time. And they're hoping to do it again next year. But they might be relocationing it. So, but.
Because of the crowd or just?
Yeah, it's kind of off. Being up in Stark's upper parking lot, it's kind of, if you didn't know about it, you didn't see it. If they had a little road frontage, they might get more attendance. So, but no, it was successful for the first year. They were very happy with it. So,
Cool.
Yeah, the other thing is we did get some good press, this past week. A little late, but this past week in the Union Leader, it had the picture of Ray Eaton. getting
Yes,
his
yes.
award.
Channel 9 too.
Channel
Yeah.
9 had it. In fact, no, the one with Ray Eaton was Sunday's paper, I think, yesterday's paper, and then they had Channel 9 carried it last week.
right, the hometown
And,
hero
They
award.
mispronounced Ray's name. They call him Eon or something.
Eon,
like
oh,
that.
jeez.
Oh, man.
Oh boy, poor Ray.
But
Yeah, it was nice.
it was very nice.
I did a little blurb for the library.
Yeah. Yeah, but, yeah, and the Union Leader had it in Sunday's paper, so. that
Good.
was- that was
That's
We
good.
actually got some good publicity.
Yep.
And it went to a
Yeah.
well-deserved
I do have
person,
one of
so.
those.
Make sure you get the dates right.
Don't go by YouTube. Yeah, you can throw it in that trash barrel behind you, Jim.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They pick it up.
Here you go. Thank you.
In that orange folder I will have. Oh, almost. Oh,
Are we good to go?
I am.
Believe so.
Oh,
Second.
all right.
Aye.
Aye.
Great.
Aye.
Well, they should
What's your feeling
should
on
have
this?
been, said,
Thank you.
We'll kick